Good evening, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to Cambodia Global Dialogue of Southeast Asia TV. Tonight I have the pleasure to have, once again for the second time, a good friend of mine from the Central Bank, the National Bank of Cambodia, Madam Chea Serey. Serey, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. Serey was invited to come last year to share with us a bit on the development of the banking sector and the emergence of the first ever institution relating to the credit bureau. So it's almost a year already. So now I thought it'd be good to invite her back and probably continue the debate what we started last year. So Serey, welcome back again, and tell me, perhaps for those who missed your first show, you should say a bit about your background a bit.
Well, I have joined the National Bank of Cambodia since 1999, so it's been a while now. My education background, I have done my middle and high school in France, so I speak French. And I did my university degrees in New Zealand, Australia, and the UK. So it's quite a variety of countries that I have been living in. So
you're quite exposed to the Western world, if I could say. I think we share similar backgrounds, French-speaking. But of course, we have a background with France. But the Asean world is moving us toward a more English-speaking country. But so in the banking sector now, we see a thriving banking sector, right? But before we get to that, I thought that it'd be good if you can refresh us a bit. Last year you mentioned that you're about to help start the Credit Bureau Cambodia. Where are we now?
Well, it's been a year now, and the Credit Bureau has been launched last year, and last 2 months we have celebrated the first anniversary of the Credit Bureau, and it has been very exciting. The results that we see from this launch. I think now banks can access the credit histories of their clients easier.
Yes.
And we have seen as a result, for instance, because at the moment we don't have the commercial data, all we have is the individual data. So the impact is more on the microfinance institutions. We have realized with the Credit Bureau that we have people now that has multiple borrowings, that the institution were not aware before without the Bureau. And I think this is very important to try to minimize the issue of over-indebtedness. And definitely we don't want to see something like India, I think about 2 or 3 years ago, happened in Cambodia.
Oh, I see. What do you mean by that?
Well, what happened is in India is there's a lot of microfinance that were flourishing, and they're charging very high interest rate, and the people that borrow were not able to repay the microfinance. Yes. So what happened is they end up either by killing themselves, and then
really?
There's a lot of burden on the families going forward. There's a lot of social unrest as a result. So this is one issue that the international communities has put a lot of focus on, the issue of over-indebtedness, and that could spill over into social unrest.
So you're saying that with the Credit Bureau, banks or microfinance are able to say, okay, whether they should lend to that person or not, before they have no idea whether that person is borrowing from any place, right? Are you saying that?
Well, it's an additional information for bank to get to know their client better. I think Cambodia lack a lot of, I'll say, transparency in terms of doing business. So people who usually do business don't have proper bookkeeping. And they want to go to the bank and get a loan. The problem is when you have nothing to show about your incomes, your expenses, the bank would have no idea. And even if you produce one, it's not something that is really reliable from the bank perspective. So now what the bank is trying to do is more to understand what is your behavior as a borrower.
I see.
Whether you are somebody who always has the willingness to pay even though you don't have money, who's always come to pay on time. So that is what the credit bureau is giving is the behavior of the borrowers.
I read a World Bank report. It said that Cambodia ranking have moved up in the world, mainly due to this establishment of credit bureau, this transparency issue. So the effect on the economy is felt, yet still at the micro level, right? Do you see eventually that effect filtering up or moving up, to the macro level, at least to the commercial level?
Once the commercials information is on, it will be the effect can be much more than what we see now. I think what we are trying to do is to allow bank to lend more to the industries or to the companies that are creditworthy, not merely relying on the collaterals.
Okay.
What happened in Cambodia now is 95% of the banking loans are secured by lands and properties. Now, all the businesses, not all businesses has land and property to pledge to the bank, but some of them might have a very good receivable, a good financial statement that they can tap on. So with the credit bureau, it's an additional layers of securities to the bank to lend to these industries.
Well, Serey, you mentioned about financing to industry. This is important, as you know. In a few years from now, Cambodia will be moving up from the least developed country status to at least a low middle income. And like the Prime Minister 2 years ago at the 4th Cambodia Economic Forum, he has already set the stage that where he wants to see Cambodia, a few years from now. And last couple of years, we see already many FDI entrant to the country, a lot of joint venture, a lot of merger acquisition, a lot of Cambodian company are growing up also. So you see our banking sector, be in position to move, I wouldn't say completely away from collateral banking, but to move more and more toward merit-based business, based lending.
Well, the banking sector is very important in any economy, and as it's in a simple word, is whatever you do, you need money.
Yes.
Now, to me, I would say the banking sector is, if you compare the whole economy as a human body, the banking sector is like the heart, where it's pumping blood into every organs.
That's a good metaphor.
Yes. So we need a strong banking sector in order to support any economic development. What I see now is the banking sector in Cambodia we are now at a very exciting moment.
Okay.
There's a lot of interest from foreign well-reputed bank who want to come and invest into the country because they see these potentials. Now, going forward, as the economy grows, our bank need also grow with it. Capital-wise, I think now that we have access to banks like Bank of China and ICBC, which are two of the biggest banks in the world in terms of market capitalizations, I think accessing the financing wouldn't be an issue.
Yes.
The problem now is how the client, how our industry can go and access. The money is there, but how can you touch that money? This is the problem. And I mean, strengthening transparency is very important. This is what banks need. The other issue, there's also a lot of, what I heard from the bank is the legal system.
Yeah, legal system,
enforcement of the contract and the foreclosure of properties
Yes.
is very difficult and take a long time in Cambodia right now.
Yeah.
So something needs to be done as we move forward and we want to grow the economies, and
Yes.
this is the basic things that we need to build on.
Well, you know, I would say that I concur with you on the last statement, you know, very much in the sense that, you know, capital is very shy, as you know, it is like a fish who like to swim to a pond where the water is cool, right? Capital don't like hot water. And in that sense, you know, having a country that respects the sanctity of contract, when you have a problem with your shareholder, you know, with your creditor or your borrower, you don't know who's right, who's wrong, right? But you got to be able to count on the legal system.
Yes.
So in that sense, I concur with you. But having an upstream credit bureau to give advance information also help bank decide whether that person, that borrower, is also worthy to lend the money also.
Well, yeah, we should bear in mind, and I'm speaking from the perspective of regulators,
Yes.
Is that the credit bureau is one of the tools to mitigate the risk,
Yes.
but it is not the tool.
Yes.
So the information on the credit bureau alone should not give 100% comfort to the
Yes.
bank and for them
And the
to go
second
ahead.
one?
There is a lot of tools that the banks need to look at. One is the behavior.
Yes.
This is what the credit bureau is giving, is the behavior of their client. But banks need also look at the potential of the business, whether
Yes.
it's worthwhile to
Yes.
finance it, and as such, you will look at the overall economic environment, the sectoral environment, the competitiveness,
Yes.
and also the ability of the business to generate enough cash flow to repay
I
the
see.
bank.
Business, Cambodia is a thriving entrepreneurial country now. You see everywhere all these new shops popping up. Every street, everybody is transacting, right? This is probably the strength that I see in local economy is the micro enterprise. You know, you go to some other country, you can feel the certain lethargy. You know, you don't feel the things are moving. Here, you get off the plane, people feel from the airport all the way to downtown. People are transacting, people are doing business. What I'm trying to say here is that you see the last several years the emergence of Cambodian entrepreneur moving from a mom and pop, a single individual, husband and wife, moving up to a corporate ladder. Our stock market, of course, is young, but do you see the banking sector looking more to this group of young enterprise growing up as a source of growth for them?
Definitely they do, and I completely agree with you, the fact that Cambodia as a people are very entrepreneurial. If you go to the provincial area, in the smaller towns, you will see people were putting their fruit, a couple of fruit in front of their house and sell it, and as an income, the income that they get from selling those fruit, they can feed the families. So, yeah.
Now the mango season now.
So the spirit of entrepreneurship already at any level. Microfinance are financing these people so that they can build on their business. And I have heard stories about from a microfinance about a girl who was living, he was an orphan and was living with a grandfather. And so this microfinance went and see the girl and say, look, I see you, I probably know that you don't have the ability to repay me, but because I feel that you are a good granddaughter, you're taking care of you, I'll give you 100,000 real to start business selling the grilled banana in front of your house. So she said, well, with gratitude, of course, she took the money and she sold the grilled banana. After a couple of months, she decided that the banana that she bought from the market to dry and grill is too expensive. So she decided to ride her own bicycle to the farm where they grow banana and transport it back herself. So the price was cheaper. And instead of just bringing the banana enough for her business, she's also retail it to the market, supply it to other people in the markets. So she's making, yes, of course, and she's making money. And I think after a while, she ended up borrowing about $1 million from the microfinance, and her
Okay.
business is growing. And I think this is a very good example of how a bank or microfinance can help business grow.
Yes.
You need to give them a chance.
Yes.
You need to believe in it.
I take the next step, right? I mean, in a few years down the road, you know, a lot of people like her will be moving up, you know, as they get settled. But currently, what I see throughout Cambodia now, at least in a big city, you see a new trend coming in fast, which is the franchising of food services, right? You know, many coffee shop, many food retail, you know, and all these are what I call the middle class entrepreneur who are about to, I would say they left already the entrepreneur sector, they moved to a corporate sector.
Yes.
Because in a franchise you have to have a strong thing. What I see in the future is that if our banking sector, which now we have a lot of banks now and they're looking for clients, if they're in a position to give good, commercially viable, good rate to this entrepreneur, you can see the Cambodian economy grow quite and by leaps and bounds.
Yes, I think this franchising can work, and the bank would understand the market before they venture into all this. We have a fairly young population, and all these fast food and
Yes.
coffees is really trendy things to be at. Banks understand this,
Yes.
so I think they will finance what they feel is good.
Yeah, you know, for me, maybe you can depict a little bit about the commercial banking sector. Some people say, oh, but Cambodia as a small country, can it absorb so many commercial banks? But banks make their own decision. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, what do you think?
I think this is like an open race, and every country has to go through a certain phases.
Yeah.
It happened in Malaysia, it happened in Singapore, one of the biggest financial center in the world, where you have a lot of smaller banks. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, I always like to say this, the big fish will always eat the smaller one. At the end of the day, they will find a way to consolidate
Yes,
themselves and
yes.
become strong. Now, whether Cambodia is in a position, whether the National Bank of Cambodia is in a position to say Cambodia need 10 banks, 5 banks, no one knows.
Yes.
What we can do is we allow whoever eligible to come
Yeah.
in and let them compete. And
Yes.
as we can see now, we have seen some mergers going on. It's slow, but it's taking on.
Yes.
But we have to go through that phase, and the best win.
Well, and I think in the end of the day, competition is good. You know.
Competition is good. I think at the moment we have about 37 something banks. The thing also is that a lot of banks, they're trying to cater their own niche
Yes.
market. They're not really serving the every segment of the economy.
Yes.
And I would say only about 5 to 6 banks are doing the job.
Yes. Are
The
doing
rest-
the overall banking service,
Yes,
right?
I think the rest, they really try to cater. I mean, certain banks
market.
from Taiwan, for instance, they're more looking into investors from Taiwan,
Yes,
because
yes.
there's somebody that they know already
Exactly,
from their country.
Yes.
So in that sense, in reality, we only have about 6, 7 banks competing with each
Okay.
other.
Okay.
With that competitions going on, we have seen now a decline in interest rate, loans. We have seen it used to be 16% 5 years ago.
You're kidding
Come
me.
down, yeah, it came down to 14, 12%, and now we're standing at somewhere between 10, 9%.
Oh, that's a good news then. That's a good news.
That's what competition
Yes.
is supposed to be. We wouldn't otherwise have seen that.
Yes,
If the central bank would say, I like to have 5 banks and that's it.
Yes, yes.
So
Yeah.
you would have sort of an oligopoly. But going forward, the market will decide itself.
Yes.
And I think we're in a market economy,
Yes.
and we should let them decide.
You mentioned something quite interesting that probably not many people will realize, that you know, in a country like Cambodia, where we're so relying on export, meaning that if our market is small, our consumer market, even though it's growing, it's still small in relative term, right? So we're dependent on export market, and export market is dependent on industrialization.
Yes.
Industrialization rely on FDI, and guess what you mentioned about the Taiwanese, for example, they come to invest in industry, and then they want to deal with banks who knows them.
Yes.
And what we see at the same time that the Japanese are coming, and they like to have banks that they comfortable with. You know, the Thai would want to deal with the Thai, the Malaysian. So in a way, it's competition per se, but on the other hand, it's more a niche market servicing.
Yes.
It's quite interesting. Quite interesting. Never thought about that.
Well, it is the realities,
Yes.
and I've been in the industries for a very long time to understand
Yes.
where it's.
So I want, it's not your direct field, but there's a sure correlation between the work of the central bank and the stock market, because these are the two things that bring capital to the country, right?
Yes.
Where do you see the relationship between, the banking sector as a direct capital, injection to the economy, and the role of the SEC, where, it's a stock market, where is it going, and how do you see the bank supporting, the growth of the capital market?
These two sectors are complementing each other, if not competing for each other. Now, it's all depend on, in some countries it's depend on the tax laws, on the investor protections rules. People would rather move to the stock market to raise capital rather than go to the banking sector and borrow money.
Yes.
So it's the same, but one is raise capital and you pay dividend, the other one is you borrow money and you pay interest.
Yes. At the end of the day, you still need capital somehow.
Yes, but when you raise capital from the public, there is a lot of rules that you have to implement. With the bank, of course, there are rules. There are some rules of transparencies, but then again, with additional collateral, with some other things, you can get away with it. Going to the capital market needs a lot of discipline, because you are taking people's money as an investment. So people want to see, where are you investing my money in? Transparency is important, and I think Cambodia still need time to do that. We would need time to get businesses be used to the fact that they need to produce financial statement, which is not the case right now.
Yes.
We need the time for businesses in Cambodia to understand that there needs to be a proper corporate governance in place, and not the father of the family is deciding on everything. And this is, it's not just rule, it's a mentality changes, and it needs times. And I think going forward, I would say the stock market is a good start, and I think it gives some idea what are the expectations. But from here, I would say, and this is again my personal opinions, I would see it, I think, not as soon as 5 years from now to really get ready for business.
One last thing, because we're coming to the end of the show. The central bank has developed over the year their financial blueprint. What stage are you now? What phase are we in?
Oh, there's a lot of things that we have to implement. We have reviewed our strategies 3 times already.
Okay.
The latest was launched in April, and it goes from 2011 to 2020.
Okay. Oh, so it's still a 10-year time frame each time. Eh?
What phase are we? There's a lot of things in that blueprint that we need to implement. The financial infrastructure. So we have put in place national payment system. We have put in place the credit bureau.
Okay.
Going forward, we need to strengthen our supervisions, crisis management framework, and so on. So 10 years from now to achieve, and especially when the ASEAN integration
Yeah, I
is
was
coming
about to
in.
ask that question. Where are we now in ASEAN, preparation, I mean, from the banking sector side?
The ASEAN banking integration framework, they call it ABIF, they aim to be ready by 2015. There is an initiative called the Qualified ASEAN Bank.
Okay.
Where banks who are qualified as an ASEAN bank can move around within ASEAN and get the same benefit as the domestic bank. That project, that initiative, we aim to have it ready in a couple of years from now. So every country is working very hard to get their banks ready.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Cambodia will not be there yet. I think in terms of banking sector, we have nothing really to compete with our Singaporean or our Malaysian counterpart. But I think in the microfinance industries, we are way ahead, and this is something that we can really export to the other countries in ASEAN.
Yeah. Well, Serey, we're coming to the end, but I definitely want to take this opportunity for you to, as a young, civil servant, to say something, sort of message to the other side of the fence, which is the young entrepreneur. Their role is important. You are a regulator, you do your job, but it's important that the other side also see their role. And how can you, with your experience, with your exposure, what sort of message you want the Cambodian entrepreneur looking down the road, to be a good corporate citizen, and how they can benefit from a thriving banking sector? What's your message?
Well, that's very hard. Get yourself ready, be transparent. I think this is very important to get access to the banking sector. Whenever you want to grow your business, you need financing, you need money. And you won't get that money. I mean, it's easy to get it from your parents. You don't have to prove yourself. But when you want to get it from banks, this is a different story. You really have to prove yourself. You have to show that it makes sense to do this kind of business. And I think take advantage of the sector now that it is booming, and take advantage of Cambodia's economy that is growing, the middle class is growing, so be ready.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's a good closing remark. Serey, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I hope that regularly you can come and update us on the banking sector, particularly from the regulator perspective. You
would love to.
We learn a lot from that. So on behalf of the audience, let me just say thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks.
Well, I think for these 30 minutes, I find a lot of new information that I thought I knew, but I did not. But the good thing is that, the banking sector is on the right track. I think we're growing. I like Serey's metaphor that, let the market settle. At one point, competition is good. It brings down interest rate for the consumer. But here is the thing that I really want to highlight is the role of transparency, in a country banking system, where it's a tool. It enables banks to take the right decision based on the accurate or up-to-date information. So we should be happy and proud that we have now a credit bureau at the service of the country. But the other thing that I find quite interesting for our thriving economy, where we're moving gradually toward a middle income status, is the need to finance industry. You still have to finance the consumer transaction, but the country will be needing more and more financing for the industry, for the young entrepreneur moving from entrepreneurship into a corporate level. And ultimately, from that corporate, they move to the stock market, where the larger access to capital is available. But all in all, I would say we're on the right track. The path is set. The trick is, how do we sustain that? And glad to hear that the central bank is currently implementing its financial blueprint, which is a 10-year blueprint rolling. And things are on track. ASEAN, it looks like we are also on track, and we have also some good experience in micro enterprise to share also to other ASEAN countries. So on that note, I cannot be more happy than that. And so I hope you learned something also. And good night, and I'll see you next week.